If the Tennessee Titans miss out on the top names at wide receiver, it's time to go Hollywood. I'll explain why on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, you didn't think I was going to wear those glasses all show, did you? Of course not. Had to have a little bit of fun to start, but we got a lot to talk about on today's show. We're seeing a lot of perfect fit free agent articles out there. We're going to go over some perfect fits from ESPN, some perfect fits for the Titans from Pro Football Focus. I'm going to give my opinion on those. I want to know your guys' opinion on those as well, and we'll cap off the show talking about where would be a nice fit for former Titans like Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. But before we get into all of that, do want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day here on the number one Tennessee Titans podcast in the world. Do want to give out shout out to my guy TA Titans Anderson. He is the man who owns the sunglasses look. So shout out to you, my man. Not trying to get on your corner or anything like that. But with that being said, do want to dive into these perfect fits. And we're looking at an ESPN article from Matt Bowen. And we're going to get to a name here that I have been keen on since we started the process based on how things played out. And that is Marquise Hollywood Brown. And here's what Bowen has to say about Marquise Brown being a perfect fit for the Tennessee Titans. Said Brown would add a very different element to the Titans wide receiver room because of his vertical stretch ability and open field speed after the catch on end breakers. Brown has 28 touchdowns in his career, 4 with the Cardinals in 2023, with 10 of them coming on throws of 20 yards or more. In Coach Brian Callahan's offense, Brown would work with DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks to give quarterback Will Levis a versatile group of pass catchers. I said this earlier this week, all right? But I think that Hollywood Brown would be a great fit for the Titans. Now, here's the reality, though. I only want Hollywood Brown if the Titans can't get their hands on the top names at the market. Look, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman Jr., Calvin Ridley, those are my top 4 guys. Those are the 4 guys I would want the most. But there is a great chance here, a very likely chance, that none of those guys ever actually hit free agency. Higgins probably gets tagged. Michael Pittman probably gets the tag or a long-term deal. Calvin Ridley is probably not going to re-sign with Jacksonville and then sign back with them in free agency to circumvent the trade deal that they made with Atlanta for a second-round pick. And Mike Evans has been in Tampa Bay his entire career. Why in the world would they let him go? So if any of those 4 guys do become available, then yes, I want one of those names, and the Titans should be going heavy after them. But we have to acknowledge a reality where none of those names are there. And if none of those names are there, what do you want the Titans to do? Again, we talked about names that I didn't like on yesterday's show or 2 days ago, where we talked about Gabe Davis. We talked about Tyler Boyd. We talked about Darnell Mooney. Hollywood Brown is a better, more impactful player than all of those guys. And considering Hollywood Brown has been up and down availability-wise, last 3 years, 14 games, 8 games, 15 games, you're going to be able to get him at a discount of what his talent actually represents. So you go out or you made 14 games last year, getting the notes mixed up. My apologies. But last year, 51 catches, 574 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And a lot of that came while Kyler Murray was not the starting quarterback before he came back from his ACL tear. So he was doing work with, terrible options like Clayton Tune. All right. Josh Dobbs in there, blah, 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 blah. Like, you guys see what I'm saying. All right. I think that Hollywood Brown, his skill set would be critical to the Titans. And Bowen explained it. Deep vertical speed, catches of 20-plus yards for touchdowns. That is what Will Levis is going to do. And look, I don't typically like smaller wide receivers, short guys, and Hollywood Brown's 5'9", 180 pounds. But I like to build my wide receiver group like a basketball team. All right? So you have one small, short, fast guy that can go get it down the field. But you also have one shorter, smaller, quicker guy like a Kyle Phillips. But then you get bigger. You have one big-bodied, physical guy who can go up and get it over top of people. You have a couple of shifty route runners in between, like a basketball team. I want variety in skill set. So if the Titans do miss on the big names, not miss because they sign elsewhere, but because the Titans don't get an opportunity to court them in free agency, then an easy pivot to make would be Hollywood Brown. And I would prefer him over Gabe Davis or Tyler Boyd or Darnell Mooney. Like, it's not even close for me. Hollywood Brown is a much more talented football player than those guys, and his skill set fits perfectly with Will Levis's arm strength. So to me, while that's not, I do hype, happy, hate tiers, Hollywood Brown isn't a hype answer. Those are four that we talked about are the only ones there, but he would definitely be a happy answer, and I would like that a lot better than some other options on the market. The other perfect fit that Matt Bowen had for the Titans was Chidobe Awuzie, and the cornerback from the Cincinnati Bengals. Matt Bowen says this: the Titans need some veteran help in the secondary as they allowed the league's third worst completion percentage to opponents at 6 foot, 200 pounds. Awuzie not only has the man coverage skills to challenge on the perimeter, but also the fluid movement traits and closing speed to play off the ball in zone coverage. This is a solid fit for new defensive coordinator Denard Wilson. Awuzie didn't have a pick in 2023 with Cincinnati, but he did make 57 tackles and a forced fumble. Again, a guy who's big enough to play on the outside, who is physical enough to help in the run game, who can play different kinds of coverages. I think Chidobe would make a ton of sense for the Titans. You have that Cincinnati connection. Last time that he signed a contract with the Bengals in 2021, it was 3 years, $21 million. As I misread my notes earlier, he has played 8 games, 14 games, 8 games, 15 games in his last 4 years. So there is a risk right there that is going to make him more of a bargain. I think the Titans could get Awuzie at, 2 years, 18, 2 years, 18 million. Seems about right. Maybe even cheaper. You could maybe do 3 years, 15 million. And I think that would make a ton of sense. Again, would it be a hype signing for Chidobe? No, it wouldn't. But I would be happy. Because the reality we have to accept is L'Jarius Sneed and Jalen Johnson may never hit the free agent market at all. So out of the cornerbacks that are left, and the Titans are going to need one, maybe two, you got to find value options that give you good bargains. And I think that Awuzie would be that. All right. So with that being said, though, there are some offensive linemen who Pro Football Focus has said would be a perfect fit for the Titans. I don't know if I agree with them on most of them. So we're going to get into that in just a moment. Let me know how you feel about these perfect pairings for the Titans. If you would be excited about them, hype, happy, hate, what are your feelings? Let me know down below. But we're going to get into the offensive line next. Before we do, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. Number one, the 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's perfect for city drives and great escapes. It's got class exclusive Google built in is always your updating assistant that you can call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, Google Play Store are all built right in to the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. The Nissan lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It's got room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, advanced available 4x4 capability with 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Make sure to shop on NissanUSA.com. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition, or continue. We're not capping off anything yet. We got a lot more to get into. Let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We looked at some free agent fits from ESPN. Now I want to shift over and look at some free agent fits from Pro Football Focus. I've given you guys my best fits throughout the week, so it's only fair that we go look at some other ones. Before we get into those fits, though, do want to thank you guys again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round. Always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Do want to remind you guys, next week, the NFL Combine is here. We're going to get a ton of NFL news, a ton of NFL transactions, cuts, trades, rumors, all that. It's going to be an excellent week next week. And a Locked On Titans free agency preview coming right around the corner. So make sure that you stay locked in to the Locked On Titans podcast. But according to Pro Football Focus, there are some offensive linemen that would be a good fit with the Tennessee Titans. That would be a potential landing spot for for these players. The Titans would be. And number one on the list is Robert Hunt from the Miami Dolphins. Had a great year last year. And I talked about Hunt earlier in the week. And while Robert Hunt is a very good player, Robert Hunt would fit in the system that the Titans are looking to run with their wide zone. Robert Hunt just ran that kind of offensive schematic system. While he just ran that in Miami, similar type philosophy. The reality is here that I don't think the Titans need to spend that kind of money at guard. All right. You just used your first round pick last year on a guard. To follow that up with a top tier guard contract this year, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would rather the Titans give out a big contract for tackle, or a good size contract for tackle, and then a good size contract for center. All right. I think the Titans already have a competent right guard on the roster. They have Daniel Brunskill. They have Dylan Radins. They have Nicholas Petit-Ferrer. One of those three players should be good enough to be your starting right guard. Period. Like, it's that simple. So it would be a poor use of resources to go out and spend big money, $12, $13 million, $14 million on Robert Hunt. It just doesn't make any sense. You already used a high-value asset on one guard. Your other guard position has to be a value. You can't pay all five offensive linemen big-time money. You can't do it. You just can't build your team that way. So pay a decent free agent to play right tackle. Pay a decent center. Then let one of the three remaining guys play right guard, Peter Skoronski at left guard, and draft your left tackle. It's that simple. And in that equation, I don't see paying a guard. Now, if the Titans want to pay Robert Hunt to play right guard and then go draft a center in a pretty decent center class in the draft, then sure. But that would be completely wasting Radins, NPF, Brunskill. Now, I think Brunskill is a potential cut candidate, but at that point, like, you should look to trade or release one of Radins and NPF. It wouldn't make sense to have all of them on the roster who are all best suited for that right guard spot. So to me, it's about resource allocation here. While Robert Hunt is a good player, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me to pay that contract. On the flip side, Pro Football Focus also identified Connor Williams as an option for the Titans. And if the Titans want to go out and spend at center, I really like Connor Williams. I like Andre James. I like Lloyd Cushenberry as well. All three of those guys are good options. They're going to be anywhere from $10 to $13 million a year. But here's the thing. Connor Williams did tear his ACL in week 14. All right. I think it was against the Titans, as a matter of fact, or at least the week before. But is he going to be healthy? Is he healthy enough? Now, I already have to adjust my timelines for ACL injuries. I did not think that Dylan Radins would be back as soon as he was back from his ACL tear last year in in 2022 in week 15. I did not think that he would be ready to go as quick as he was. So maybe We're just seeing the timeline of ACL recovery totally change here. We're in a transition period to where it's way quicker than what we used to think. All right, maybe that's the case. And if that is the case, and the Titans believe that Connor Williams will be back for the season, then sure, get him at a bargain. That would be a good idea. I would be okay with that. But if they aren't as certain about his recovery, then I think you pivot to Cushenberry, you pivot to Andre James. Those would make a ton of sense as well. But I get Connor Williams as a fit for, he would probably make closer to 15, 16 million if he was fully healthy. I think coming off the ACL would probably be around 10 to $13 million somewhere in there. Makes it a little more digestible if you are the Titans. But again, it will all come down to the health. But the pairing itself of Connor Williams and the Titans, I was all over that until he got hurt. So if the health is in a good spot, I still would be happy with that. All right. The last two, though, I'm totally out on. I've talked about Mekhi Becton before. Pro Football Focus fit? No. He's a big, heavy dude, struggles with his weight, has struggled in the locker room, has struggled to give full maximum effort, and has struggled to stay healthy. And I think all of it is combined. I just don't trust the person, Mekhi Becton. I don't. All right. And while he is not comparable to Isaiah Wilson, that's not fair. He's actually played games in the NFL. He's actually an NFL player. I just, I get those vibes. A guy who doesn't really want to work that hard, a guy who really isn't all in. And I just don't think that fits with what I want with my football team. So he may have first-round talent. He may be a mountain of a man. Absolutely. But with the Titans being a zone team looking for athleticism and his history, I'm out on Mekhi Becton. That is a hate for me in terms of free agency. And then also Josh Jones. Now, Jones was a former high draft pick for the Arizona Cardinals. He has not panned out, got traded to the Texans, and didn't really have that great of a year. He's a backup. He's a backup in the NFL. So that may be a fit if the Titans are looking for like a swing tackle. And just so you guys know, a swing tackle is your backup tackle who can play both sides. A swing tackle doesn't just mean someone who can play both sides. It's a backup. It's your third tackle. So if I refer to someone as a swing tackle, I mean that they're the Titans' third tackle, not their starters. Okay? And if you have a primary backup tackle, you want them to have the versatility to play both sides. That's the whole point of swing tackle, the term. All right? Just so we're on the same page there. But if the Titans think about Josh Jones as a swing tackle, all right, maybe. But I would rather just stay with Jalen Duncan. Stay with Nicholas Petit-Ferrer. Use Dylan Radins as that. Josh Jones isn't significantly better than any of those players. So it wouldn't make any sense to me. So Robert Hunt, I get it. Connor Williams, I get it. Mekhi Becton, Josh Jones, I don't really get it at all. So, but I have to say, I'm just not with Robert Hunt's price, Connor Williams' injury, even the ones that I'm okay with. I wouldn't call them perfect fits by any stretch of the imagination. But with that being said, do want to have some fun at the end of the show here and talk about some Titans who probably are moving on to other teams. Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, where would I want to see them land? I want to know your guys' thoughts down below as well. We're going to get into that next. Before we do want to let you guys know that today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you, and it's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something. You might even be thinking the same thing this week. I said it. It's time to let Derrick Henry go. I know it frustrates all of you, but that's where the Titans are at as a team right now. Now, what I do want to say is therapy can be different for everyone, and most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team or Derrick Henry leaving in free agency. But either way, the point is it's important to get those things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible. It's suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Titans fans, now we're going to cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about ESPN's perfect fits for the Titans. We talked about Pro Football Focus's perfect fits for the Titans. I gave you guys my opinion on those. Some I liked, some I didn't like. Let me know down below how you guys feel. But now I want to spend some time just having some fun here and talking about the two big Tennessee Titans who are probably moving on to a new team and where I would like to see them land. Before I get into that, do want to let you guys know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today. That's Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts from Locked On, like me. Plus, our national shows covering every league, like Locked On NFL, which I do the Thursday show of. Go check that out. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. But we got to talk about Derrick Henry. We got to talk about Ryan Tannehill. And Derrick Henry specifically, the number one fit that you see for Derrick Henry is the Baltimore Ravens. Just over and over and over, that's what you see is the Ravens. And I get it. I really do. According to Henry himself, the Ravens were trying to trade for him in the middle of the season, a trade the Titans should have made. But regardless, they've been rumored to want a high pedigree, high profile running back. Derrick Henry absolutely fits that mold. And in a backfield with Lamar Jackson and a team who's trying to win a Super Bowl, Henry would make a lot of sense. Derrick Henry is a better player than Gus Edwards. All right. He's going to be a much more expensive player than Gus Edwards, but he is a better player. And the Ravens have a good offensive line. They should be able to get Henry holes to the second level. But do I want to deal with Derrick Henry in the AFC playoffs or something like that? Not really. Just for sentimental sake. And honestly, more than anything, I don't want you guys in my comments crying all the time about Henry being on the Ravens and in the AFC. So for me, I would like to see, and let me say this. While it all makes sense, the Ravens run a lot of gap runs, and Henry is much better in zone than he is in gap. So that's something to take into account as well. But I think the Dallas Cowboys make a lot more sense, and it would make a lot of you more happy to have Derrick Henry out of the AFC. And the Ravens, there's PTSD there because of Steve McNair and Derek Mason, all of that. I get that. So Derrick Henry, go to the Cowboys. That's all I'm saying. Go to the Dallas Cowboys or go to the Philadelphia Eagles and you can be a winner with A.J. Brown again. You know what I mean? Like, that would be better, I think, to go to the NFC. I'd like to see that more, and I think that all of you guys would handle it a lot better if he went to the NFC as opposed to the Ravens. But moving on to Tannehill. Tannehill's got a lot of decent options here. I mean, I think he makes a ton of sense for the Steelers. Arthur Smith back at home. They got good weapons on offense. They just need a functional adult at quarterback. I think they should aim higher than Ryan Tannehill, but that could be an option for him. You keep Kenny Pickett, you let him compete or whatever, but Tannehill is way better than Kenny Pickett. The Falcons. Arthur Smith may have left, but they have so much talent on offense. If the Falcons want a veteran quarterback to come in and just get wins with a good cast around him, with a good offensive line and good weapons, Tannehill definitely makes sense there. I mean, that obviously makes sense. I think New England would make a lot of sense for Tannehill as well. Not because New England's going to be good, but if they pass on a quarterback and go get Marvin Harrison Jr. and they're going to go get a second round, third round quarterback later in the draft, they're going to need to get a veteran, and Tannehill would be a good stopgap for them as they try to build up their roster to get ready for a young quarterback. And then finally, the Raiders. Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, Michael Mayer. If they're able to bring Josh Jacobs back, even if they don't, I mean, like, Zamir White is good. So whatever. And that's the point about running back. Why would you pay Josh Jacobs? Just have two Zamir Whites, and they're going to be fine. They were fine. So anyways, I think all those teams could make sense. Maybe one of these teams that does draft a young quarterback, you want that Andy Dalton type backup. Chicago, you know what I mean? Washington, maybe they would make sense if they go out and draft Caleb Williams, Drake May, all of that. Even New England, if they, like, whoever drafts Jaden Daniels, who may not be the most pro-ready of the top three quarterbacks. I think he is, but you know how these teams think and operate. Then Tannehill would make sense there. I think he's going to have suitors. You know, it's just going to be, does he want a chance to be the starter right away, or does he want to compete for it? That's up to him. But if I had my pick, I would like Tannehill to go to the Falcons. I think that makes the most sense for him to try to get the most out of his last couple of years. But with that being said, that's the end of today's show. Before I go anywhere, I do want to say this. Shout out to my lovely fiance, Rachel. Happy birthday. I love you. You guys have no idea how busy I am all the time with all the stuff that I do. We're out at dinner. I have to leave if big Titans news happens to record a video and get it out. Like, I am on duty for work 24/7, 365. It does not matter if it's a holiday, if it's 2 a.m, if Titans news breaks, I have to work, period. When the coaching news was breaking, I was doing 2 episodes a night. I was getting up out of bed at 10 p.m. to go down and record 30-minute episodes live. That takes a toll on her. So, babe, I love you. Thank you so much. Happy birthday. But with that, that is going to do it for me today, folks. And this week, again, Combine Week next week. A lot of big news coming. Stay with me here. But as always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.